Welcome back to the Laura Show. I am here with Dr. Ahluwalia. I hope I'm saying that right.
Perfect.
Oh, good. Thank you so much. For the viewers, this is actually my dermatologist, and she is the owner and founder of Canadian Dermatology and Plastic Surgery Centre, which is located just here at the shops at Don Mills. And so I met you probably maybe around a year ago when I actually came in to get some acne help. Yes, that's right. I'm at my late 30s and I still get adult acne, which I'm sure I'll see it all. You see it all. And so you've obviously been like a lifesaver to me, and giving me my confidence to, of course, be here on camera. So I appreciate you for all your help.
Well, you look amazing. So whatever I could take.
Well, I am your product now. So you kind of have to say that. But it's kind of so funny because over time, I'm sure you get this a lot, right? People see you from one service and then they're like, what else do you do here? So
that happens all the time.
All the time. And you and your husband own this company. When did it start?
So we opened the Canadian Dermatology Centre in 2019. So we'd recently moved to the area and we were just kind of looking for our next steps. He had a clinic, Canadian Plastic Surgery, in Scarborough Centenary Hospital for some time before that. And I was working downtown at the hospitals and at some private health clinics. And then we decided it was time to do something together. So we opened August 2019. I had my first daughter October 2019. And then it was COVID, March 2020. So it was a hectic
What the heck were you guys thinking? All that at the same time.
But I said, if you start like at zero, it's easier when your business shuts down, right? Than if you have like a thriving business. So, we took it with stride and we were lucky because at least the medical component of the business, we were allowed to keep going even early in the pandemic.
Right. See, I feel very privileged because I'm a real estate agent and we were considered essential services. So I feel like I'm on par with the doctors here. Like, I'm an essential service, you're an essential service.
You need a doctor, you need a place to live. Those are all important things.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay. So we're going to get into the clinic, obviously, and touch on maybe, how you and your husband, how you work together and how you make all that work. But I kind of want to maybe go back to the start. I was doing a little digging around. Okay. I hear you're from Winnipeg.
I am.
Yes. Yeah. Born and raised there?
Born and raised there. I was born in Winnipeg and I lived there until I came to Toronto for medical school in 2004. So if we're going back to the beginning, I had a really nice childhood there. It's a simpler life there. And
yes.
Now when I look at my daughters growing up in this city, I want to protect them from all the craziness in the city because it's a quieter pace. People are friendly. There's less of the hustle bustle, which maybe means it's less exciting. But
I was in Winnipeg a couple months ago. I'd never been there prior. It's a little bit colder than it is here.
Freezing for sure. Frigid.
So were you in the city or were you like outskirts?
Yeah, I grew up in the south end of the city.
Okay.
In an area called Lindenwoods, and my dad was the family doctor there, and my mom was a stay-at-home mom.
Okay.
It was my brother and I. My brother's also a plastic surgeon.
So this is in the blood then.
Yeah, I guess so.
I was going to go down the route of like why medicine, but it's obviously very clear.
I think so. My dad really valued education for me even more than my brother, right? Like he wanted me to be really well educated and to be able to look after myself, and he, from a very, very early age, just instilled that in me. And he would always say things with my brother right there, like it's so important that you do this and that you're educated. And you're probably like, what about me?
Hello.
It's like, hi.
But now I know are your parents from were they born there? Or?
No. My parents are Indian. We were talking about that before. I'm Punjabi.
And they were born in Punjab.
Sure. Yeah, like my mom in Africa in Kenya. And my dad also was born in India, and then he moved to Africa as well. And then my dad did his medical school in England. And my mom came to London, Ontario in the 70s. And then they met here.
Oh, okay. Interesting. So, I'm always so curious, right? Like I had a stay-at-home mom growing up as well. And my dad worked, at Bank of Montreal, so in the banking system, and kind of really worked his whole way up. His entire career was at was one place, the Bank of Montreal.
Yeah.
And it was kind of funny because I saw my my mom being an incredible stay-at-home mom, and I really valued that growing up, that position, like what she did. And I always thought, like, wow, there's nothing more proud to me than to be an amazing mother. Like, I just loved what she did. But at the same time, my dad was very much instilled that kind of work ethic and go to school and, learn how to take care of yourself, so to speak. And I wonder if that's a generational thing. Did you feel that way? Like, that were you, I guess, torn between going down the route of career oriented or stay at home, like once you had your daughter?
No. I mean, like what my mom did was amazing. I could never do it. I think it's the hardest job in the world, being a stay-at-home mom. And it's all about like looking after other people. And that's like what my mom did her whole life, like, and still does. Like she's the one who looks after all of us all the time. And I love my kids and I love being with my kids, but when I'm working, that is sort of like a guilt-free way, to work on myself and follow what I want to do and build what I want to do. So, when you're out with your girlfriends for dinner or like a drink, you feel guilty, right? Like, yeah. I should be with my kids. I can't see them enough. But
at work, I mean, and there's an element of you are helping other people.
Yeah.
You're just not helping in that moment your children.
Yeah.
Well, you kind of are in a way because, you're bringing home.
It's a weird balance. And I think it's something that all women deal with. I think you can't win at everything all at the same time. So if you feel like you're doing good things and you're, when I'm at work, I feel like I can focus on work and I'm doing well at work. And then when I'm at home, I can focus on home and do well at home. But you can't do both things at the same time. You can't win at everything at the same time. And I think when you look at your life, like a day, it's easy to feel like you're not doing well. But when you look at it as a week, you can check some boxes. And
do you actively do that? Like, are you, go to bed at night and you're like, okay, like, yeah, I didn't, I shouldn't have dealt with my husband that way, but, the other win is I had a client whose life I changed. Like, do you try to tell yourself those things, or is it just
I try to keep that as as an overall mindset when you're feeling overwhelmed or you feel like, I haven't seen my kids enough, like, so then I make an effort the next day or on the weekend, to have more
making up for it.
I know. I think that's the only
way to go about it.
The only way you can do it is, I have a great nanny, like the grandparents help us out when they can, like, so I know my kids are well taken care of. Like if you don't feel like your kids are happy or well taken care of, then how can you do your job? And vice versa. At the clinic, I know when I'm not there, that the team is great and my patients are well taken care of.
So it's kind of about building, it takes what do they say? It takes a village.
Yeah.
Right? I don't have kids, but I've seen a lot of my friends struggle with trying to manage both. And I think once they've let go of the control aspect and the reins a little bit and saying, like, I can ask for help, I can bring in other people to help me either at work or at home.
Mm-hmm.
That seems to have brought them more inner peace. So that's interesting you say that as well.
It does for sure for me. But it takes time, right, to find both those teams. And then just when you think everything is in place, then there's always a curveball and you have to...
Yeah, and the rug gets swept out from underneath you.
It's hard when it's all at the same time and everything is curveball.
I guess things are all going really well in your life. You should probably be a little bit nervous because
I don't know about that.
Probably in something's around the corner, like a COVID or something.
Oh my gosh, no. We've had like a really hard holiday season and everything. My dad had a stroke. So we were supposed to go on our first vacation in 3 years. And instead we went to Winnipeg.
Sorry to hear that. Is he okay? I hope so.
He's in good spirits. He has really bad aphasia. Like he can't talk. And it's broca's aphasia. So he has word finding difficulty, which is really hard because he's such a smart man. But he's in good spirits and, he's getting all the therapy. So hopefully
that's hard not being close to him. My dad, in 2021 now, I think, December, he was diagnosed with bladder cancer. And they said it was a relatively aggressive, they used the term aggressive form of cancer, which to me was like, this is awful. And we don't have a science background, but our family, so we're like, worried,
Yeah.
you know, and you're just thinking, like my dad, and maybe for you, was always this kind of beacon of light. Like, you know, he was my biggest fan.
Yeah.
And he was the one I looked to often in times of crisis and in times of like, I need some feedback, because I was going down more the career path. So I didn't ask my mom those questions. Like, it was always my dad, what do you think of this? And what do you think of this as an investment and things like that? That was always my dad's responsibility. So seeing them in a light where suddenly they become a little bit more frail, it is hard. So I understand where you're coming from on that.
Right.
Yeah. Sorry. No, we're allowed to cry on this show. I don't think we have Kleenexes, but that's okay. We'll pedal them on the eye. They'll be just fine, I'm sure. I'll change the topic. I want to go back again. Okay, so we're in Winnipeg. You're being encouraged to go down the school route, and obviously being a, very independent, career-focused woman. Why? Like, were you a great student? Were you super? Yes. She's like, yeah, I was pretty good. There's some part where it came. I guess.
No, I mean, I worked hard. Like I wanted to achieve. I was motivated by achieving. So, I always worked hard, and I always did well in school, and I liked school.
Did you feel pressured?
Yes.
To get like straight A's? Was the pressure from your family or from you?
Both.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I think it was more like internal.
Yeah.
But I also wanted to make them proud, right? And as growing up in an Indian family, like we're strict families. If I got 92%, where's the other 8%, right?
Yes. Yeah. It's funny. My family was a little bit different. I had a lot of pressure I put on myself. I was kind of that student where, I remember this one time I got 100% on a science test, on the calculus test. And there was two bonus questions. I got both the bonus questions wrong. So I came home and I was like, oh, my mom was like, how'd you do on the test? And I was like, awful. Like, and she's like, what'd you get? I'm like, 100. And she's like, what, you can't do better than that. I'm like, actually, I could have done better than that because I missed the bonus questions.
That's so
But that never came from my parents. Like, I really didn't feel the pressure from my parents. It was from as young as I can remember, the pressure came from myself to always just like, I would see other people succeeding.
Yeah.
And I was, it was like, well, if they can do it.
I felt like that too. And also, my parents sent us to like a private school in Winnipeg, and they made it clear that they were like working very hard so my brother and I could go there. So we're like, oh, we don't want to mess this up.
You don't want to jeopardize. Well, some people do though. Like they take it for granted. So it sounds like you just had great work ethic and obviously great parents, raised some good kids. But okay, so we dad's in medicine. He's a doctor. That was always the dream then? It was like from a young age?
I actually wanted to be like a news reporter. I still do sometimes.
You have the hair for that.
Oh,
I don't know what that means, but if people are listening on through like Spotify or whatever, they're like, what is the hair? Just really nice hair. I feel like news reporters always have good hair.
Yeah. I've always liked that type of role. Maybe I want to have a Laura show.
Yeah, well, you definitely get. We never know that. Yeah. Interesting. So, but you didn't go down that path.
No, I think it's. I admire people who go down that path. Like I think I wanted a more secure job, and I liked medicine, and I liked science, and I wasn't 100% sure that that's what I wanted to do, but I didn't know what else to do, and that was very familiar to me, and so I'm lucky that I really liked it.
Well, and you're good at it. Yeah, it's funny because oftentimes I've changed my career so many times. Like I actually went to school for nutrition.
Yeah.
So I do have a bit of a science background, a very small amount, but then found myself in fashion and then real estate. But I envy people like you who it almost seemed like this was my path. Like, yes, I might have been interested to do these other things, but I kind of just was laser focused where I'm like, sure, I'll dabble in this, I'll dabble in that.
Well, I think I was lucky that I liked it because if I didn't, then I probably would have had a problem.
That's true. Yeah, you might be changing careers now later in life.
I don't know.
Why? I guess correct me if I'm wrong. So you go to school, generally speaking, to become a doctor, and then
4 years.
specialize.
Yeah, so
right?
I did 4 years undergrad in Winnipeg, and then I came to Toronto and did 4 years med school at U of T. And in about my third year of medical school, I decided I wanted to be a dermatologist. I liked the job. It was fast paced. It was a good mix of stuff, so I wouldn't get bored. So you could do aesthetic medicine. You can do, a lot of complicated immunology, which I like to, and a lot of procedures. So I like the diversity in it. And when I went into medical school, I thought I wanted to be like a pediatrician or like a neonatologist.
Oh, okay.
Like little babies in the NICU. And quickly I realized that, that was not for me. It's a very emotionally draining job. And although I liked kids, I didn't really like pediatric medicine. So, dermatology is a really good fit for me because it combines all the things, all the things I like. And aesthetic medicine is really interesting because it's in a way, like fashion and combining like art and science together, which is really unique to be able to do that. There's not a lot of fields in medicine where you can do that.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Oftentimes, I have a dog, so oftentimes, I always think, oh, I should have been a vet. Like, I love animals, but then I really think, I'm like, I don't think I could deal with like heartache, heartbreak every day, right? And so I imagine, pediatrics is that on many, many steroids. And yeah, too, like that's probably why I kind of went down the fashion route. Like moving to Toronto, like you said, this hustle and bustle. And I felt like growing up, I saw people who had things that I didn't have access to. Brampton.
Okay, yeah. On the outskirts.
On the outskirts, yeah. But then when I went to university, I went to the University of Guelph. And I met a lot of people who went to private schools in Toronto. And they just had a life that I couldn't quite have as a kid growing up. Like my parents did well. And
well, Toronto was a whole but
like it was a whole different ballgame. And I remember thinking like little things like the purses or the shoes my friends would have. And I just thought, oh my God, like I'll never be able to have that. The first time I went to Whole Renfrew was with a girlfriend of mine, and she like pulled up in a car bought for her by her parents, and she like did the valet thing, and I was like, what are you doing? What is happening? People take your car, right? Like, so it's funny to be exposed to that kind of life. And so it's interesting because now you're two daughters.
Yeah, I'm terrified.
Like, overexposure in some ways.
I don't want them to be exposed to those things at such a young age. And I want them to feel like exactly how you felt like the first time that you saw those things. Like, I like nice things and I work hard for them, but I don't want my daughters to think that's normal or that they don't have a life for it. That's what they should,
How do you decision to parent around that? I mean, they're pretty young still.
They're pretty young. It's difficult because Gia's 3 and Taya is turning 1 tomorrow. So they're little. They're sweet girls right now. So I just need to keep it that way. Like for Christmas, Gia's
all the parents of teenage girls laughing at this right now.
They're like, okay, good luck. 2 teenage girls in the house. That's going to be hard. But for Christmas, Gia's like, I want lipstick and a Christmas bunny, So we're not there yet where they're like asking for a lot of stuff. And they just want our time more than anything, right? And it's hard. We don't, as a family, have like with the business and Quinn's building in OR right now. Like it's hard to find that balance and that family time. But I think showing them to value family time and value hard work, and trying not to expose them to a lot of those things. But we're deciding where to send Gia to school, and I worry like if I send her to one of the girls' schools or it's going to fear. What is she going to be exposed?
Yeah, it's funny. You want to expose them, I'm sure, and you want to like give them the things that you didn't have.
Yeah.
Oftentimes we want to do better than our parents did for us,
and you want your kids to do better than
and you want to give them the opportunity, like set them up for their best possible avenue of success. But at the same time, if you make life too easy on them, they won't be prepared.
Yeah,
when they're out in the real world and they actually have to work.
And Quinn and I talk about we want them to value hard work, and I think they'll see how hard we work, and hopefully that will translate.
I'm curious because obviously what you do with dermatology, there's lots of skin issues that people have, and can really affect people's confidence, like real, it's like psoriasis and obviously acne and eczema and things like that I'm sure you help a lot of clients deal with. That I'm sure is very satisfying to you, right? Because that completely changes how someone looks and feels about themselves, right? Is that satisfying for you?
It's extremely satisfying. There's so many conditions like acne, like psoriasis, that now there are really great treatments for. And if you teach someone like with acne, how to look after their skin and maybe put them on medications that work for their skin, you see like a whole difference in their confidence, and their life changes because of it. Or psoriasis, people are covered in like scaly inflammatory plaques, and there's amazing medications out there that we can get patients access to, and their skin clears. And then you just see them flourish, like especially like some of the younger people who's, they come in, they're like sitting all slouched, they're not making eye contact, and then you clear their skin, you have a whole like other person in front of you, like they're confident when they come back, like they tell you, they started dating someone, or like their career is taken off. So
because it really impacts everything, like obviously in this society too now, with cameras following people around and us feel, and everything's airbrushed and everything, like you feel that much more pressure. And in what I do, because I do help a lot of people get over the fear of going on camera, a lot of them times they don't tell me it's fear at the start. But you start to uncover things and you realize like they don't want the attention. They'll say, well, I'm an introvert, or I don't like the attention.
Right.
And then you start to uncover it. And sometimes it's really just that they feel insecure about how they look.
Right.
And that's why they don't want the attention. Right. And I just wish sometimes, I could smack it out of them. Because a lot of times it's not something like a psoriasis or acne. It's just some,
it's confidence. I know. And a lot of it is internal. But even, with aesthetic medicine too, people want to look their best these days, and there's nothing wrong with that, and we just help people in our practice to look like themselves. We don't want people to look different. We don't want people to look artificial, so that they can be confident to have the skin they want, have the look they want, to live the life that they want.
Now this might, obviously this is what you do for a living, so I'm gonna like skirt the subject. Where do you draw the line? Like, do you think there's a line? Do you just say, I am strictly the person who helps and whatever people want? Or do you try to advise people? Like,
I draw the line.
You do? Okay. Because I feel like since I've been seeing you, right? So this is funny. I was going in for Botox not that long ago. We had some filler that we did under my eyes. And I was like, oh, and I came and I was like pointing at something at my face. And you kind of laughed because you're like, what are you talking about? And I was like, this is bothering me. But it can be a bit of a gateway drug almost, because you start with one thing and then it's true, clear that. And then all of a sudden now you see the other thing that you didn't even realize until you cleared the one thing.
That happens.
How do you deal with that?
That happens all the time. And often there are like reasonable solutions, but we want our patients to feel more confident, not to focus on, tiny little imperfections that nobody is seeing but you. And so it's a global picture and a global program to, put your best self forward so that you can feel good. But I make that clear, we're not going to chase every line. We're not going to chase every wrinkle. We just want you to look like the best version of yourself. And there are different ways that we can do that. So I have some patients who want a lot of filler, who want like to be completely frozen. And so it's an education. It's more like trying to understand what they want and what their goals are, and how to help realistically give that to them. So often what we develop when we work with different people's budgets is a program to help you achieve your goals. And that doesn't involve a lot of one thing. The people who get the best results are people who do small amounts of different things gradually over time. So, the goal is that my patients just keep looking better and better, and nobody knows why.
Right.
And people see them and say, oh, hey, you look great. Not, oh my God, what did you,
well,
your face, you look.
I feel like real estate agents are probably your best kind of client.
Yeah.
Because, obviously we're putting our faces on
For sure.
a lot of things.
See a lot of
Yeah, I'm not surprised. When I walk around the office, I can tell. But that's an interesting point because oftentimes, people will look differently very suddenly.
Yeah. Which is not a good look.
Right? And I always say I'm so fearful of that. I don't want to have into work and people
No,
like,
we don't do that. And that's the number one fear people have before they do an aesthetic procedure. And that's the number one question we get from new patients is, and people are often very cautious at first and they're like, I don't want to look different. And so
I don't want to look different, just better.
Yeah. And so my nurse and my team does a lot of reassuring too. She's not going to make you look like that. We're going to make a plan. And then when people come the second time or the third time, they're like, okay, yeah, what you did last, then they are just more relaxed. They know that the aesthetic matches and that we have the same vision.
Well, I didn't bring you on to give you a testimonial, but just quickly, I will say I have gone to a couple different people to help me with Botox, and I have seen some bad work done on my face where I showed up the next day and people, and when you're already self-conscious of it, you're not ready to admit it.
Right.
Not that I'm embarrassed of it, clearly I'm talking about it now, but people, what's wrong with your face?
Yeah.
And I showed you a picture once and I was like, this is what I don't want to have happen.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I don't want my eyebrows peeking here and looking like a crazy person. So I obviously appreciate the work you've done. And I think it also helps maybe having a woman in the industry doing it because you kind of have a better idea of what other women, I'm sure you call men as well.
Most of us kind of want the same things, and those are the right fit patients for me. I do have patients sometimes that are focused on something that I don't perceive as a problem or something that I don't think is the right thing to do. And then it's a conversation that I don't do it. It's not a good fit. It's not the right fit. I don't think they will get the outcome that they want. And our vision isn't the same, right? And so I'm not the right doctor for that person.
So maybe, refer them to somebody else. What kind of are some of the biggest health risks associated with this? Because, you talk to anybody and everyone has an opinion about it.
About what?
About
like aesthetic procedures.
Yeah, aesthetic procedures.
Well, you have to be really careful, right? The whole industry is not as regulated as it should be. So anybody can buy a laser, right? Which is terrifying. Lasers,
I didn't know this. Where do I get
and people who do a weekend course, they're operating lasers in their basement. And you can hurt people, and there can be complications if you're not wearing the appropriate eyewear. Someone could even get blind or have damage to their eye, and there are a lot of potential complications with that, and it's completely unregulated.
Even fillers, but completely avoidable too if you just see someone who knows what they're doing, right?
But, it's interesting. People sometimes think a dermatologist isn't a doctor, right? Some people don't know that some of my patients who are coming to see me, they're like, oh, you went to medical school for this? Not in any kind of, insulting way, and I don't take offense to it. They genuinely just didn't know.
And probably because you can go to so many med spas, right?
Sure.
And get a lot of the similar procedures.
Yeah. And fillers and neurotoxins like Botox, you're supposed to have a MD or a nurse practitioner that can sign off the account, but people get counterfeit product from different places. It's quite terrifying. And we see complications, especially with filler. I had this one patient in my practice, a really sweet woman. She went somewhere and she doesn't even know what was injected into her face because you put trust into, and she got all these giant granulomas, ulcers and sinuses in her face, and has no idea what was injected. The place has since closed.
But so relatively speaking, though, if you go to someone who is certified, who is a doctor, it's all relatively safe, I imagine. Or is there anything else people need to be concerned of?
You need to know, you need to go to a provider that knows facial anatomy, that knows the risks of every procedure, that is using right products for your face. And then the risks are very, very minimal, right? So the main things that you see with most procedures are redness, bruising, swelling, that's very temporary.
Right. Well, it's just because when this thing, I feel not to harp on Botox by any means, but this is one of the most highly studied types of things that's coming out on the market.
Very,
but it almost seems too good to be true. That's the problem, right? We always like, as kids, it was like, if it seems too good to be true, it probably is.
Well, you just don't want too much of a good thing, and it should be incorporated with other treatments. Like, you don't want to overly freeze your face or overly atrophy your muscles, but 3 or 4 times a year, just to prevent those lines and movement, it makes a really big difference. So now, like, I have less lines that I had when I was 30, and I don't feel the need to get my Botox as much as I did 10 years ago because I've been doing it so consistently for so
it kind of long. I've forgotten the muscles like relax.
How to move my face.
So let's speak of preventing, because you can probably help with this. Yeah. Me as a kid, my mom was so adamant about wearing sunscreen. Like she was like, wear sunscreen, and no kid wants to wear sunscreen.
That's the best advice. Like
good. I know, I appreciate her, but I also was like the kid that was out in the pool every single day, and I ski in the winter, so I also have been exposed to a lot in sun with sunscreen on.
Yeah.
Is that your like thing that you tell most people? Is that still the thing? Like
that is still 100% the thing, and I make that a part of my initial consults with almost all my patients. Medical and cosmetic for sure. And it surprises me still that patients are coming in and they're wanting to spend thousands of dollars on procedures, but they're not wearing sunscreen.
The cheaper thing they could use is wear the sunscreen.
Yeah, and so I said, like, if we're going to do this, then the skincare needs to match too, because skincare is really important. And the things that are backed by science are, more than anything, sunscreen. Vitamin C, antioxidants have a lot of benefit for the skin too, in terms of neutralizing free radicals from the environment. And then retinol has a lot of great evidence too for skin cell turnover, stimulating collagen, helping with fine lines and wrinkles and pigment. So I think that's also an important part of our consultations, is making that the skincare routine is matching the procedures, because
it's kind of like going to the dentist 2-3 times a year and thinking you don't have to brush your teeth.
Exactly. Right? It's your home maintenance.
Yeah.
So
that's always it's always the stuff that's not fun. Like, I know there are days I get home, I'm like, I don't want to wash my nails, but it's that stuff. It's doing that consistently.
It's like routine, right? Like anything. Exactly. Going to the dentist, working out, like everything.
The shit
all habits.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Speaking of routines, I'm so curious. So you work with your husband.
Yeah.
Was that like, some people would think that that's a crazy idea?
We don't do the same thing. And it's nice because we actually get to see each other then, because a lot of the time, especially right now, he's working quite late. Like, so he'll try to come home and say goodnight to the kids quickly, and then the kids go to bed, and usually I fall asleep in the kids' bed, So it's nice. We actually get to see each other at work. And I think it would be a problem if we were doing the exact same thing, but he has his job and I have my job. So it actually works well, because we get to have there's minutes and
good overlap around.
Yeah, for us it works. And we work well together. We actually think the same 90% of the time, and then 10% of the time
Well, yeah, because it's not like you're just doctors say at a hospital. It's like you guys own this clinic. So the way
that's the part what causes
the business side of it, right?
He has a business mind. Like, I'm not naturally a business person. I've learned a lot from him and just from experience, but he has a business mind. He can think more of like big picture. And then I think more of like day to day and flow. And I think I'm more the people person, although he is too.
So you kind of like have figured out your roles, like, so to speak.
Most of the time.
It's always about that, right? Like doing that at home.
Yeah.
Is a similar thing, like kind of just finding that groove where one person can take kind of ownership over something and obviously consult with the other partner, right? Saying, this is where you kind of thrive and this is where I thrive. So let's kind of draw the line. Is that like a hack for you guys, or?
It just kind of naturally happens that he, like, because I rush home to the kids, and then there's 7 million like business things that need to be done, and he has the mind for it. He enjoys doing that kind of stuff. So, and he does that. It just kind of fell into place, and it doesn't work 100% of the time. I'd be lying if I said it did, but because sometimes he doesn't get to see the kids, or decisions are made in the office and I don't know about them, things like that, right? But it's valid.
obviously, you met prior to starting a business together. My husband and I are kind of competitive with each other, like in a fun, I think it's a healthy way, but who knows? Maybe a therapist could tell me otherwise. So he's in real estate as well. He does commercial real estate though. He doesn't do residential.
Right.
And he was successful in his career much earlier than I was.
Right.
So it's kind of funny as I start to close the gap, so to speak.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm coming for you. I'm coming for you. Do you have that with your husband or no? Am I crazy?
No, I get that. And maybe it's because you don't have kids.
Right.
I don't have. I also don't think I can win right now because the mom has the kids.
That's true.
I'm naturally a competitive person. I like to win, but
because you guys are like this power couple. Like you guys must go to like cocktail parties. It's like, oh my God, like they're so successful.
I don't really go out. Oh, to be totally honest. Like I would like to go to a cocktail party in 3 to 5 years, but if they have a vacation in 3 years, yeah. So that part of the balance we're still struggling with. But I'm not competitive with him. I like to be like, I think when you have kids and like the business together and everything together, it's like all together.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good. That sounds healthy. So people do this. Don't do what I'm doing over here. Do what she's doing. So I, the business side, I know you had mentioned that that's not necessarily your forte, but you like working with people and obviously dealing with the staff. It's been interesting because I've met a number of your staff now. They're all fantastic. And I've actually heard multiple of them say, not because I was prying by any means, but how much they actually really enjoy working there. And a lot of them prior to your clinic have kind of bounced around and said like a lot of these places are not necessarily the most enjoyable places to work because of the owners, because of the it's always from the top down. It's always leadership down. So what is your leadership style? Like, how are you making that work?
I like to empower people to do what they want to do. And our business has grown really quickly, and that is because of the good people we have on our team. So I think it's identifying what motivates people and what parts of their job make them happy. And as we've grown, pushing them in that direction. And I think they find that satisfying. And also, there's a balance. We have more hands-off leadership style. And, we're watching from afar, making sure that things are getting done. But once someone is trained and they know what they're doing, they don't need to be micromanaged every second. We can't do that either anymore with the rate that we've grown, and the people who are already there are so good. We're confident that they will train, the new people better. And so I think if you treat people with respect and you help them find what they like to do, then they'll grow with you. And that's our goal for the clinic is that we'll grow together and we'll have the same team, 10 years from now.
Well, why do you think, and maybe it's because of the industry, like obviously a couple of years ago prior to interest rates going up, most real estate agents could kind of ride the wave of the market, right? So you could just sell a handful of homes at great prices,
right,
and not do the insane amount of work that's truly required to run a very successful real estate business. Right. Which now people are seeing now in a recession because those agents who didn't really learn the foundational skills are like, oh no one's doing deals, we're stuck. Right. And so I feel, obviously in your industry, like as it becomes more and more popular and becomes more accessible to the average person to go and get some of the procedures and treatments, you can ride that wave, right, a little bit. But you guys are expanding at such a rate that I know it's not just attributed to the market. Like they have huge, your space is massive and you have 2 spaces, right? And
the second space is opening any day now. And so there's going to be 2 full operating rooms and hair transplant, and some of the lasers and machines will be over there.
We're over there. Like it's really amazing. What do you attribute most of that success to? Are you guys just like, are you on offensive mode? Is it the people? What do you attribute all this success?
Combination of everything. Like honestly, we're working really hard. Like we spend a lot of time working, and we've built a really good team that we trust. And I think we have so many great doctors who are working with us too, and people want to come see us, and they tell their friends, and that's really what's happened. We've done really, like, we're thinking about now about external advertising, but we've done no external advertising.
Referral.
Yeah, and it's exactly what you said earlier. People come to us for one thing, and then they say, "Hey, you do all those other things," and they had a good experience. So. And they like that they can do everything with us. They're medical, they're cosmetic, and most of our patients stay with us, and they continue their journey with us. And they know if they have a medical issue, we'll be able to help them out. If it's cosmetic, we can help them out. If it's surgical, and then they tell their friends and family. So it's really nice now. Like my days now, I get to see a lot of the time my patients that have been coming since the beginning and their friends, and it's built a really nice clientele.
Well, last time I was there, you had come in to see me. You said, I'm sorry I'm a little bit late. Not that you're usually late, but you were a little bit late because your previous client, I think you said, was your neighbor growing up, or right? Does that make sense? So it's like, it goes to show, you treat people, or maybe not growing up because you would have been in Winnipeg, but
No, it was.
some sort. Okay.
Well, lots of my neighbors come see me. I think that day it was my my friends, one of my friends growing up, their mother who had recently moved to Toronto.
Yeah. And she was going through a hard time.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I think so often, and I feel this way in what I do too, people think, well, it's real estate, it's superficial.
Yeah.
And
half of what you do is probably therapy. And
same with, and that's what I'm saying, because the way you came in,
Yeah.
the emotional toll I could tell that you were bringing with you from that meeting. We had a moment because you upset at the time, and I was like, are you kidding me? Like, you do have to put things in perspective, which is like, I know, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. You have to put things in perspective where it's like, I get that what we do on the surface sometimes doesn't seem important, but I'm dealing with people's, their houses, their memories,
and what changes that they've had that have led them to have to move now. I'm going through that with my parents now too, because they're looking to leave Winnipeg and have a place here, and it's very hard for them. That's the house they've lived in forever.
In your childhood home. Yeah. There's a lot of baggage people carry, and I actually think oftentimes when you work in things that are more helping the exterior, in so many ways, you're really helping the inside.
Because people start to feel comfortable. You talk about something that's not threatening, and then they like that, and then they feel they open up, and that's been nice. Like, I've seen like my patients go through a lot of different phases of life, and tragedies, and successes, and deaths, and divorces, and all the human things that people go through, and it's a privilege that people confide in.
I'm sure sometimes it's hard because you're dealing with your own shit too.
You're like, geez,
I don't have time for this today. Or
I know, it's like, okay, now I'm an hour behind, but people need that. And I think it's sort of also sometimes why people come. Like I have one girlfriend who always comes to see me, like, under the guise that she, like, needs something done. And even my nurses and stuff, I'm like, I don't think she needs anything. I think she just needs to talk.
We have these 2 chairs in my office. We call them the therapist chairs. And I feel like yours just happens to have, like the wax paper or whatever, the paper rolled it with the top of it. Different looking chair, but oftentimes that's the case. I read something about you that I found interesting. Tell me, so you were the national public speaking champion. What does this mean? When did this happen?
It's like old bios. That was in high school. So back in 2000, I was the national public.
So this would have been the broadcasting.
Yes, I liked giving speeches. I liked public speaking. It was something that I enjoy.
And you do a lot. I've noticed because there's so many articles and blogs, and you've been on so many publications and things. Like, you obviously enjoy speaking, and you're definitely an advocate for health and wellness. Is there something that you're kind of like really passionate to let the public know, or that you want to share? Anything that's kind of like top of mind?
There's lots of different things out there. I think one of the things I get asked about all the time are things that people are seeing on TikTok or like different trends, and if they should do them or not. So the one that, like, there's some good ones out there. Like, people are talking about, skin cycling, which is just what dermatologists have been telling their patients for so long, like changing up your skincare routine on different nights. So that's a good one.
Okay.
And then there are
What are we supposed to be doing? Because I tend to do the same.
Well, if you're introducing a retinol into your skincare routine, you can't use it every night.
Well, I just started the retinol.
Yeah.
And my whole chili was like so scaled.
It's a hard time to start in the
And I only did it one time.
So it's like half a pea-sized amount, lots of moisturizer after. And the next night, don't do it. Take a break, and then maybe another night incorporate like alpha hydroxy acid. So it's just cycling through. That's a trend on it.
So don't just like do a full tilt switch to something.
Yeah.
It's about like sort of naturally putting it into your routine, I guess. What else? What are some others?
Some of like the bad ones, like cautionary tales. Like, people get these videos about removing their moles at home. So like putting acid on them, or like numbing them with ice and then like trying to shave them off, like at home mole removal, which is super dangerous.
I feel like I've heard people say they've used like wart removal.
Yeah, people do that.
That's like a freezing.
You can even buy those at home freezing things that are advertised for skin tags. But the problem with that is, people have this weird mole, this funny looking mole, and they irritate and traumatize it without getting it checked out. And it could have been something potentially dangerous. And there's horror stories like that. So those types of trends always make me cringe.
So no mole removal at home.
Yeah, which is super dangerous. Or like just wearing sunscreen on the areas, that you want like a little bit of contouring, like contouring with sunscreen. That is a terrible
That's a thing?
Yes, that is a terrible TikTok trend.
My goodness. Okay.
Yeah.
So you have like natural highlighter then, because it would be paler than the other skin is.
Exactly.
Gosh.
Natural highlighter.
Okay.
Yeah. There's everything out there. So nothing really
surprises you anymore.
But I think my overall message is that, it's important to see a trained professional, whether like in dermatology, whether it's for aesthetics or whether it's for something medical. You don't want to try these things at home, because it's the same, like you said, a lot of people think these things are superficial, or they don't have a lot of components or layers to them, but they do. The skin is actually very complicated. There's lots of blood vessels underneath our skin, and there's lots of things that can go wrong. And even lesions and growths on our skin, the most dangerous type of skin cancer is melanoma. So if someone has an unusual spot, it's very important to get that checked out, not to try to remove it at home or at a spa.
Yeah, not seeing something and doesn't mean it's really gone too, right?
Yeah,
right. It's just kind of bubbling under the surface. Well, my goodness, like I said, I've been to a number of med spas, and I've had skin issues my whole life, in all honesty. And just meeting you, I mean, now without your mask on, this is the first time I'm really seeing you without your mask on. You've obviously helped me, and so I appreciate that. And I hope that, people who are kind of thinking about going down this path, like, you find a doctor that's as qualified as you, and someone who, really wants to like grow with you. And you've given me some feedback as well. And you're like, Laura, that's not a problem. You're human is what that is. You have blood running through your veins. Yeah. And so, someone who's not just trying to take your money, so to speak, because I think, the industry, unfortunately, doesn't probably always have the best reputation. So I appreciate you for, and really admire you for trying to increase awareness around it and increase the quality of the industry. So thank you for joining me. Your dad, not to make you cry, but to be very, very proud of his little girl. So, so thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.